So we just went through phase 1 of the agenda, 5 minutes of banter and settling in. And I do think a few more people will join as we get going here. Figure the agenda tonight, it's always makes sense to do some introductions on the front end of these things, understand where people are coming from and kind of lucid dreaming experience. I'll give an overview of tech for dreaming, the actual community. And when you hear that beep, that's just me going to the other browser tab and letting people in. Yeah, so I'll give an overview of tech for dreaming. Then we can do discussions around devices and supplements that are intended to induce lucid dreaming. We'll spend, extra time talking about some specific devices, some specific supplements. Like for instance, I've been trying out this Somnimask to, not much success so far. So I'm happy to talk about my experience with that and definitely welcome other people talking about experience with other devices. And then as far as supplements, definitely, want to keep it open to people's experience with supplements to induce lucid dreaming. But yeah, we can spend a bit of time talking about this 2018 study around galantamine and how that actually showed pretty good results at different doses. And then we'll leave time for open topics at the end. Whoever wants to stick around, we can just kind of have more of a free-flowing conversation there. That agenda sound good? Any other things people think we should have on here? All right, so let's get started with some intros. And since I'm already talking, I figure I might as well go first. And since I'm organizing this event, I figure people might want to know who I am too. Yeah, so I'm Brian. I started lucid dreaming back in 2014, so about 6 or 7 years ago. Really started when I got my sleep apnea treated. I used to have severe sleep apnea, so I got that resolved. Started meditating around the same time, and then there's just this tidal wave of lucid dreams that hit me, and just really got into it. Started reading more and more about it, trying out different techniques, and just kind of went down the rabbit hole from there. Currently work at a company called Aura. We have a smart ring that has a bunch of sensors in it, does sleep tracking, heart rate variability, temperature, a bunch of other metrics. Before that, I was at Fitbit, and then before that, I was at a medical device company, Medtronic, doing continuous glucose monitoring and cardiovascular devices. So definitely kind of a devices wearable kind of geek here with a background in business and engineering. So, just want to address, why I thought it was a good idea to have this community tech for dreaming. Yeah, I think there's so much potential in lucid dreaming as far as, opening up exploration, ways to understand ourselves and also the nature of reality. And I really like the potential for technology to make that more accessible to more people. And I was frankly surprised there wasn't a group like this really at the intersection of technology and lucid dreaming. So, felt like a missed opportunity and feel like I enjoy talking about this stuff. Figured other people probably enjoy talking about this stuff. So then created the group. And as far as my role here, I view myself as somebody that helps facilitate, coordinate sharing of knowledge, coordinate different collaborations that are happening and different experiments. Definitely don't want to be, like the one-way teacher, preacher here, definitely want to have this be a multiple kind of channel discussion here. So, look forward to exploring this space together with you all. I did mention I work at Aura. If you're familiar with that product, here's my stats from today. It's a total mess. Overnight, my temperature spike was 0.34 degrees Fahrenheit. Resting heart rate was up about 30 degrees or 20 beats per minute. So anyways, I've been feeling better. I'm not fully at my best today with, you can see my readiness score at a 34, but I'll do my best to, kind of push through the next couple hours here. And, like Michael Jordan back in the flu game, I had to do a little bit of research. In 1997, they won Game 5 of the NBA Finals. He scored 38 points with the flu. So I figure I'll put on my elite athlete hat and flip through some slides here to prove that I'm an elite athlete like Michael Jordan. But yeah, like I'm, happy to be here and to facilitate this event tonight, and want to learn who else is here too. So let's do a round of intros here. It'd be great to know what are people's current experience level with lucid dreaming, and then it'd be great just to hear, what do you most want to hear about during this event, and any other kind of tidbit you want. Keep it relatively concise if you can, but like definitely want to hear and get an understanding of who's here. So maybe I'll just go from kind of top left to bottom right from the way I see it on my Google Meet screen. So I see Troy as the first person in the top left. So Troy, if you could start with intros.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Readiness school, mate, that's tough. You champion effort for being here. Thank you. My experience with lucid dreaming, I got to know Brian through Transformative Technologies, which is tech focused around supporting the elevation of human consciousness. And he was really one of the inspirations for me to explore lucid dreaming. I'm a long-term meditator, but unlike Brian, I haven't come to lucid dreaming naturally, and I've really come to appreciate the significant amount of intention you need to bring to lucid dreaming in terms of setting it up so that you can have a lucid dream. I've got to the stage where I've become lucid in my dreams, but I haven't been able to stabilize my dream environment. I wake up pretty quickly after becoming lucid. And that's probably happened half a dozen times. So looking for support or help in terms of any tips for stabilizing the dream environment. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Huge Aura fan. Yeah, we've been using it as part of different startups, and just stoked to be here. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, great. Next up, I see Bill on my screen. Are you there, Bill?
Let me uncloak myself. Hey, so my name is Bill. I'll send the link on stabilizing lucid dreams, but the short of it is spinning, or just doing something to engage like your motor cortex. Even just rubbing your hands is pretty well researched at this stage. But anyways, yeah. So I've been lucid dreaming on and off for years, and have been fascinated with devices. I directed new media at the Exploratorium in San Francisco, for anybody who knows that, and built a bunch of exhibits there. So I'm sort of I'm an experienced designer, and I'm very used to designing things that relate to human perception. So I've been kind of, as Brian kind of knows, plugging along in sort of low-key way. But anyways, so that's my interest. I'm interested to hear what other people are doing. I would say, in my own journey lately, definitely been having a lot more lucid dreams. And the thing I'm starting to really understand is the differences in the state of consciousness that we have. So in a lucid dream state, it's clear that you're aware that you're dreaming, but it's not the same mind that's happening now. So and you can look at the research on that, and one obvious thing is that there's less connection with the frontal cortex. So hence you're suspending disbelief a lot. But anyway, so that's my interest, and I'd be curious to know for other people that are having have explored that, like what their thoughts are on the quality of consciousness that's different in the dreaming state. If you subtract the weirdness and all the stuff going on, just your reflective consciousness, like how that's different for people. Cool. So hey, everybody.
All right, thanks, Bill. I'm seeing Jay up next on my screen. All right, uncloaked.
Yeah. My name is Jay Mutsafi. I have been lucid dreaming since I was a kid, around I think 4 or 5 or 6, somewhere around there. I've been reinterested in lucid dreaming around the age of 20, and started the Lucid Dreaming podcast, which is a periodical podcast. I'm gonna restart it again very soon with new guests. And since 2014, I've been working on some tech device for lucid dreaming. My general goal is to just remove the barrier to entry with lucidity. It's like one of those things where, you know, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time and a lot of frustration for a lot of people. And I'm convinced there is some technological solution to it that's, you know, going to be affordable enough and easy enough to use and will work for most people most of the time. And that's the general goal. I also moderate the lucid dreaming subreddit, like our lucid dreaming on Reddit. You know, I love tech and I love this. I'm also a philosopher. I have a philosophy podcast too, and interesting, just like Bill, and about consciousness and this interesting state of consciousness. And in events like this, and in general, been looking for, you know, just people to talk to about these topics, but also potentially collaborators, and people who are also interested in kind of solving that big problem.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Shay. And yeah, always very cool to have people, you know, join that are actually working on some actual devices and like some tangible projects. Like that's one of the really cool things about, you know, this community. Next person I see is Bailey on my list. If you could do an intro, and also welcome Dash.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bailey. Super excited to be here. I am a coach. I focus in shadow integration and meditation and holistic health and sleep and lucid dreaming. So I am someone who teaches other people to lucid dream. My experience with lucid dreaming, I basically became interested in this because I was having incredible nightmares, incredible sleep paralysis and stuff like that. And I was looking for a way to sort of heal through my dreams. And that's when I became really in love with lucid dreaming. I've been lucid dreaming for almost 2 years and have about three a week. Actually interesting, I was having a lucid dream about learning to lucid dream last night. I was like sort of designing what that would look like for everyone. So yeah, that was really exciting. And then what I'm looking to learn through this event, just hear other perspectives. You know, tech for lucid dreaming, I've never thought of that. I've always thought of it more a healing aspect, a more spiritual aspect. So I'm really excited to hear a more data-driven tech version of that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, glad you're here. Thanks for sharing that. Next up, I see Sue. If you're there, could you do a quick intro? All right. If she's not there, let's go to Eric Wang.
Hi, guys. Good to meet everyone. I am part of the BioLoop team with Jason and Bailey. We're kind of
nice.
Sleep coaching on an app.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I saw the email with Bailey mentioned. So like now it's all coming together. Okay, got it. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Pop in from just nowhere. Yeah. Yeah, I've got my Aura ring over here.
Nice.
Yeah. I've lucid dreamed a lot when I was a little kid, and kind of got more reinterested in it in my 20s a little bit. I just learned about the Somnimask kind of recently. I'm pretty intrigued by that. I'm really curious about how the tech works and just kind of where the technology is at right now. So yeah, that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing. And as I mentioned to people before, I did start trying the Somnimask recently. I haven't had much success about it, but I'm happy to talk about, you know, what I've learned so far, and I can show kind of like what the control interface looks like as far as like how you can change the LEDs and other aspects of it.
That's kind of cool.
Next up, I see Phil. Are you able to do a quick intro? All right. If not, let's go to Derek.
All right.
Hey, Phil.
Oh, hi. Hey. I've been involved with neurotech ever, it seems. Typically with brainwave entrainment devices using pulsing lights and sounds, and marketing those and inventing and manufacturing. And along the way, marketed some lucid dream devices that proved to be less than spectacular. And really my interest is the tech, of course, but I'm really interested in the quote unquote natural ways of getting into the lucid dream. And I've done some experimenting with trying to stay awake while falling asleep, and have had some success, but am interested to hear if anybody else has encountered this. For me, it's like a foghorn that goes off that's very alarming and threatening and dire as this process happens. So at any rate, that's my interest, is that aspect. And also, Bill Meyer mentioned what is the difference in consciousness in the dream. And for me, the question of lucidity is also, how can we be more lucid while we're actually awake? And is there a different way to be awake? So that's it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks for that, Phil. Next up, I see Link. Good to see you again. Wish we could be at Cafe International on Haight Street. Last time I saw you, but good to see you on video.
Yes.
Here.
Yes, I mean, thanks for hosting this. It's great to see like people, being part of this. I remember like when you first hosted the lucid dreaming group in the Bay Area, the first one, in person before the pandemic. It's great that you've been like continuing to build this. Yeah. So my name is Link. I guess I've been interested in lucid dreaming since I was a kid, and then there was a period when I didn't lucid dream for a long time. And then what got me back into it was sort of, mental health problems, depression, things like that. Bipolar, and just interested just generally in like how we can have better tools to explore consciousness through, meditation is one, and, psychedelics is becoming more legal in parts of the world. Lucid dreaming is another one. And so, so I think like potentially it's amazing, since like, I mean, as you're all aware, like it's become a science, for many decades now. And so, yeah, my main interest is like, and what I've been doing is building what I call virtual dreams, which is sort of, how can you create lucid dreams through technology using brain-computer interfaces. So for those who don't know, brain-computer interfaces is technology to connect brains and computers. And so potentially, if we have that kind of capabilities in the future, we could technically create, kind of like a medium like, film, which in this case would be dreams. And that's what I've been working on. And like, there's all these kinds of implications that come with that, which is like, okay, well, if we actually working towards this kind of future, then we have to think about creating open permissionless systems, because we don't want to create companies that end up controlling this kind of, future. And just like generally, I think like neuroscience, there's been so much progress, but I think like the pace at which like progress is like sort of materializes like still very slow. And I think like there could be way more like dynamic interactions. Like this group is amazing for this, but just generally, like I think neuroscience has so much potential, like to heal people. I think. I mean, if we think about technology, as a way to accumulate more things, that's one aspect of it. But I think like the thing with neuroscience and brain-computer interfaces and lucid dreaming, potentially it has like properties where we can use this technology to give people tools to heal themselves, right? And so I think like it's not anymore a day where lucid dreams is like this thing that people don't even know about. So it's becoming more established, and yeah, hopefully like we can all sort of like go shape this future together in some sense. Like I think like sometimes like if you think back about like how the internet was started, it came about very sort of like idealistically, and then now it's like a bunch of companies and people competing with each other. And I think like with this, if we built this on a different foundation, we could all sort of like collaborate more and like and sort of like interact and actually develop faster. because otherwise, I'm not sure like the future that is going to be enabled by private companies that are working on brain-computer interfaces may not be sort of like the best path forward. And yeah, so like, I think like lucid dreaming is amazing. Obviously, it's like a way to like enter alternative reality, explore your own mind, potentially like even, I mean, I don't know what you guys think about this, but like, some people, like I have a friend, she told me like she was able to lucid dream with someone else, like, she arranged that in advance. And I think like, I mean, I don't know, like the people still like sort of dedicating themselves towards this seem a little bit like, not too taken too seriously, but I think that's going to change quickly. And I think like, this is kind of like, the path forward for humanity. I mean, like, this is kind of like a new map that it's undiscovered. And like, it's kind of insane that like, we're at this, starting at this basically, like, and like, yeah. And so like, that's why I'm like, it's great to have a group like this, just like any way where we can make it more accessible, basically. Yeah. I mean, we can talk more, I guess, later, but like, that's great. Yeah.
No, totally agree. It's like this new frontier of exploration, and like maybe we can tap into things beyond our own minds. Maybe not. But having technology that makes it more accessible means that we could actually experiment in a more controlled way to test hypotheses and like figure out these kind of strange out there questions that are on the fringe. And that's where a lot of the good stuff is. It's like going beyond the bounds of what's already known and what's normal.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear more about virtual dreams with brain-computer interfaces at some time tonight.
Yeah, so sure. I did actually write a white paper, which is very it's very long. Like probably people will not go to the extent of reading it that much, but yeah, we can talk about it later. Sure.
Cool. Next person I see is Dash. Good to see you here.
Hey. Okay, so I'm answering these questions. What is your experience with lucid dreaming, and what do you want to hear about? Okay. My experience with lucid dreaming, I started in college. I went on a diet in college, and I started having dreams about food, and I realized that if I learned to lucid dream, I could eat whatever I want and stay on my diet. So that's how I first got into it. That was like 12 years ago. I'm older now, and so now I'm just curious what everyone's working on. I'll share a little bit what I'm working on. Some people were here last time. No, I'm working on a device to allow like communication between a dream and a computer. So, for example, one of the things I want to do with it is to live tweet from a lucid dream. And I often am a guinea pig at Northwestern, and I was part of their like one of the studies that they did recently that went kind of viral, where they communicated, the researchers communicated with lucid dreamers, asking questions, and the lucid dreamers answered from the dream. So yes, that's me.
Yeah, very cool project with the Dream Phone, and if I'd be curious what future guinea pig experiments you might be doing if you're able to share later. But if you're not able to share, that's fine too. I think last person we haven't hit up yet is Benson. Are you there, Benson?
Yes. Hello.
Oh, and Derek too.
Hi.
Yeah, let's go Benson and then Derek.
Okay. Hi everyone. I am into this purely for my hobby, and like most of you guys, it happened to me when I was younger, spontaneously, and it would come and go. So yeah, that's why maybe interested in lucid dreaming. So one of the things that I discover, at least for me, is only when I'm in a sort of relaxed retreat meditational situations, then lucid dreaming can happen naturally, and I can't bring that experience like in real life. Like when I'm back at normal life, it's just hard. So I sort of want to sort it out. Perhaps I need to rely on some device and whatnot. But in the end, I prefer things naturally. So here I am.
All right, great. I'm glad you're here. And then, yeah, Derek.
Hi. Yeah, so I started lucid dreaming. It wasn't technically lucid dreaming what I was doing, I guess, but I started with I was into Buddhism some years ago. I got in about 16 years ago, and a book was referred to me. It was the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep. And in that, there's like a process where you wake up about every 2 hours. You set an alarm. Wake up every 2 hours and try to stay centered and grounded, and then try to slip back into the dream in that state. Previous to that, when you go to bed, you do a meditation that is kind of like that. It's sort of like a Zen meditation where you just basically sit there and observe yourself, focus at a point or a candle. So I found that very effective for me to get into that. I did it for about a year, pretty solid. I was getting pretty good at it. And then I had kids and got married. So then I took about 15 years off, now divorced. And so now getting back into it, which is pretty exciting. So I just a couple weeks ago, reading back up on it, but also trying to find a way that's not so intensive as that, where I can maybe have a device, or just kind of finding out what is there out there that I can use.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. Right. I can sympathize with the kid thing. I got a 13-month-old and definitely a sleep disruptor, but sometimes that can actually work out for lucid dreaming. As far as like if you're super sleep deprived, at least I find it easier to kind of slip right back in from waking to lucid dream. But usually it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, the kid as a lucid dreaming device.
Yeah, it's like the owlet of lucid dreaming devices. And I think last person is Sue, to do the proper round out here. You there, Sue? If you're talking, I'm at least not able to hear. All right, so maybe we go back to her afterwards. It seems like maybe the microphone's not working. All right, so I'm going back to my other browser tab here. Oh, for the benefit of Dash, because I know she's an Aura fan. Look at my my Aura stats are totally garbage today. Readiness score 34. I'm soliciting a little bit of sympathy if I'm slogging through this tonight. But I think we'll be okay. And just maybe to reset an agenda, because I know like some people joined a little bit a little bit after 6. We just did intros. I'm going to give a very brief overview, hopefully less than 5 minutes on Tech for Dreaming. What is it? What isn't it? Then we can talk about devices. We can talk about supplements, and definitely want to leave room for more of those kind of open-ended topics too. I think we'll try to go in order of devices and then supplements, but I don't think it totally needs to be that way. I think we can be a little bit more kind of go with the flow of the conversation. I at least have a couple of slides on a 2018 study that uses galantamine to induce lucid dreams. So I think want to spend a little bit of time on that. So I will start with the overview of Tech for Dreaming after I have a sip of water because I have a sore throat. It's my Marco Rubio awkward sip of water on the camera. All right, so this is going to be my little spiel. Hopefully it's helpful, just to kind of level set on what we think this community is and what it isn't, and where it wants to go in the future. At a high level, it's a community focused on the application of technology to make lucid dreaming more accessible. Lucid dreaming being when one realizes they're dreaming in the dream. It's not anything new. Tibetans have been doing it for thousands of years. Aristotle wrote about it in the 4th century BC. It's not anything new, but it's not as popular as it probably could be. Like as Link was saying, I think there's just a ton of potential. Like it feels like this dry wood waiting to catch fire, waiting to catch that spark. I think the main reason it's not more popular is it's difficult to do. There's been kind of analyses done showing more than half the people have had a lucid dream in their life, but it's not easy to routinely access, to get that kind of more on-demand lucid dreaming. Those kind of mental techniques, cognitive techniques, I think they only take us so far. And by that, I mean things like keeping a dream journal, things like sleep interruption, these kind of different kind of mental techniques during the night. daytime reality checks, all those kind of things. I think they're helpful, but they're difficult to build a habit around, and I don't think that's going to take us to that more kind of routine access to lucid dreaming. And that's really, I think, what presents an opportunity, and that's why Tech for Dreaming exists. So this is showing what we're focused on and what we're not focused on. So want to have this group be pretty focused on the application of technology to make lucid dreaming more accessible through the use of devices and through supplements. Want it to not be as focused on those kind of mental cognitive techniques, mystical experiences, you know, from astral projection to out of body experiences, or sharing of lucid dreaming stories. I think all of that stuff is super interesting, but it's all pretty well covered in the more general lucid dreaming groups. So I would like to keep this group more focused on intersection of technology and lucid dreaming. But you know, we'll veer into some of the other categories inevitably sometimes too. But we'll try to keep it mostly focused on tech and dreaming, lucid dreaming. Why make it more accessible? You know, like a bunch of different categories, some of which we've already talked about tonight, from entertainment to exploration to personal growth. I think there's just a ton of opportunity to you know, improve ourselves and improve our understanding of the nature of reality, potentially, depending on what we find. I think a better question is why not? Like, it's, you know, if we're able to get better access to lucid dreaming, it really opens up this new platform for exploration and experimentation. So I really want this group to be a hub for learning, collaborating, and experimenting. So I would really like it to be this place where, you know, we can share knowledge and kind of collect and curate the latest research publications and articles and content all in one place, so that you know that, okay, all the latest kind of lucid dreaming technology stuff is being cataloged by Tech for Dreaming. Definitely see it as a hub for collaboration too. You know, people that are working on projects, and then people that have good skills that want to work on projects, want to be able to play matchmaker between people looking for projects and projects looking for people. And definitely want to, you know, try some of these new solutions and get into some experiments, you know, kind of push the boundaries of what's known, whether it's with some of these solutions that are being developed from the community or elsewhere. Maybe that gets into some of the BioLoop, maybe BioLoop 1.0 kind of functionality and this kind of experimentation. I'll end on this. This is just a quote I like, and I think it speaks to at least my philosophy around this group pretty well, where it's exploring with an open but skeptical mind. I'll just read it verbatim because it's here. Too much openness to accept every notion, idea, and hypothesis, which is tantamount to knowing nothing. Too much skepticism, especially rejection of new ideas before they're adequately tested. And you're not only unpleasantly grumpy, but also closed to the advance of science. A judicious mix is what we need, which I think gets at, you know, what we're doing pretty well, as far as you know, some of this stuff is out there, as far as you know, talking to dream figures that, you know, maybe give you a response that you didn't have now, like tell you knowledge that you didn't know before, or at least anecdotal examples of mutual dreaming. So I think it's, you know, kind of butting up against this weird territory where it pays to have an open mind, but then, you know, finding the right balance with kind of skepticism and scientific rigor at the same time. So again, community focus on application of technology to make lucid dreaming more accessible. Definitely, we've been expanding our social channels. Maybe we should contract these because we have a lot of them. Tend to be most active on Twitter. Do have a Facebook group, a little bit of a Reddit presence. We will be recording each of these sessions. So when that's done, I'll post it to the YouTube channel. And we do have a new Discord server. If you go to techfordreaming.com at the bottom, you can find the invite link for that. So I will pause there if there's any kind of initial thoughts and questions before we get into like more of a device discussion.
Yeah, I guess like what is your goal like going forward with this? Like, you know, I mean, it sounds great, like what you said, but is it like, what's your idea? Like,
yeah.
You know, so like, because you said collaboration, so it's always good to know like what you were trying to get out of this, you know, like long term, I guess. Yeah,
as far as like what I want the community to become, like maybe we'll start there. As far as like I would like to see some viable, you know, like projects become commercial products that are successful. as far as, people kind of tinkering together, finding something that works, creating a group. Maybe eventually it connects people with funding to accelerate progress. I could see that kind of developing in a positive direction, kind of connecting people with fundraising. I could see it being connecting people with advisors for their, kind of companies that sprout out of this. But, I think a big thing I see is it being this kind of like grassroots thing that sprouts these lucid dreaming technology products that actually come to fruition and deliver on the promises. Because I think there's been, a bit of marketing hype without much substance. So I think it'd be awesome if we actually develop some actual things that work. As far as like what I want personally, it's just to connect with people and move this forward, because I think it's really important. Any other thoughts, questions on any of that? All right, I will go to device, kind of a device discussion here. I'm happy to backtrack on any of the other stuff too. And I think, probably going forward for the rest of this meeting, I'll probably be talking less, with the exception of the next couple slides here. I just think this is a helpful framework to kind of outline what are the different ways that people might become lucid or kind of induce lucidity. There's, those cognitive techniques we talked about, that kind of gets into the dream coaching that Bailey's involved in, and various other people. There's different techniques like dream journaling to improve recall, various other techniques. But again, I think focus of this group, I think it's more around external, supplements and substances, along with more of that kind of external devices or external stimuli through devices. So I see those as the three areas. Obviously with devices, you should have some kind of sensors to detect when a person is in REM sleep, ideally in real time, right? So then you can, find, characterize when they're in that sleep state. So then you can intervene at the right time with the right kind of intervention. And then with with that kind of stimulation, heighten awareness, but don't wake the person up at the same time. So finding the right balance. So there's been plenty of crowdfunding campaigns that have, definitely demonstrated the demand, like 4x oversubscribed, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there really hasn't been much that has delivered, at least for the mass market at this point. As far as like what a lucid dreaming device should be, this is, wildly oversimplified, but at a high level, I think it should be effective. You need the right kind of dose, precisely targeted for the person. It should be safe, should be user friendly. You shouldn't have to push 17 buttons to get the thing to work. So it should be pretty user friendly. And, I think the more that we can, make the devices valuable, the more people are going to adopt it, obviously, as far as like, it could also be a sleep tracker. It could also have lucid dreaming coaching built in. I think there's a lot of ways to make a device valuable. So I'm gonna pause here. If there's any, I just want to get a sense on, have people used devices for lucid dreaming yet? And I'd be curious, like, kind of, what people have used and what that experience has been like. Maybe I'll just get kind of the unprompted to start. If people
I actually wanted to chime in on the value idea, because part of what I've been seeing is that some crowdfunding campaigns or devices coming on the market, not all of them, but some of them, promoting some kind of lucid dreaming functionality in theory, and maybe it's obvious, maybe it's not, that I don't know, maybe they don't trust that it works as well, or maybe regardless, they shove every functionality imagined into both the device and the app, and it's trying to be this Swiss Army knife of dreaming tech of sorts. And I wonder if actually that's not the best thing. I think that there is utility for very dedicated devices that do one or maybe two things very, very well. So for example, if you have a device that happens to also, it needs to track REM, in order to, help with the induction, to do it at the optimal times during sleep, then you have a sleep tracker too, basically kind of built in. And so if you expose that data to the user, that is very valuable because you already happen to have that in there. But I'm not sure that they should have everything under the sun in one device, but that's open for discussion, obviously.
Yeah, and I can totally buy into that, and I think there just should be a balance there too, where it's I think like if there's a device that only induces lucid dreams, it's going to be super successful if they can do it reliably, and I think that's a noble goal for sure. I think there's at least like some of what was in my head when I kind of plopped down a few of these ideas is a lot of people are kind of lucid dreaming naive, like they don't know they want to do it. Where eventually, if you have these kind of other benefits, if they might buy it for the kind of like the curiosity of lucid dreaming, but also if you use that same kind of stimulation modality to improve deep sleep or have a smart alarm, that could be enough to push somebody over the edge, at least for like more of a mass market adoption that are kind of lucid dreaming naive.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And then it's kind of like a Trojan horse kind of thing where you can be like, okay, I'm going to try the lucid dreaming feature. No, but I'm like totally on the same page with you about like, if it's just squarely focused on inducing lucid dreams really well, like that's super successful too, I think.
I think what you're saying is fair. I guess it appeared as if they just shoved multiple functionalities as just a way to try to sell it, not because it's actually necessarily good at all those things.
It's almost like it's like covering up the lack of ability to induce lucid dreams when it's like they throw all this other shit in there to try to like spice it up.
Maybe.
Didn't you say, Brian, you tried the Somnimask? What was your experience with that?
Yeah, I'm happy to chat through that a bit. Let me flip slides here. So this is I'll drop the link in the chat here. I'm definitely not endorsing it because it hasn't worked for me at this point yet. But I'll give you my kind of initial impressions. So this is the mask. It's like you put it on. It's like just like a regular sleep mask. It's actually pretty comfortable. I was surprised at like how comfortable this is. Like it's actually more comfortable than my regular sleep mask, and it does pretty well blacking out the light. But for me, it hasn't really done a very good job inducing lucid dreams, which is the main reason I bought it. And I did find it a little bit not very intuitive on how to actually start it, which is like definitely a misstep as far as like there's this one button on the top here. Apparently you have to push it for 2 seconds and like 2 seconds only. Then if you push it for longer, it goes into a test mode. So like I've spent like 5 or 6 nights in test mode without knowing it, just because I pushed the button for too long. I had to troubleshoot it with their customer success or like customer support team to then figure out like, okay, I only got to push the button. Like I'm only supposed to push the button for 2 seconds to get into the actual mode. So like there's some usability things that are just not good on it. Whereas like, it should be more intuitive than that. And then, let me think, there's these, it comes with these headphones here too. So you can, put these in your ears. I did find them pretty uncomfortable the first night. I tend to be a side sleeper. So I actually woke up and it was actually kind of hurting my ears a little bit. So I just ended up taking those out, which I think is all right as far as, sound is just one, kind of stimulation technique. And still like the light would be retained with the LEDs on the eye here. But yeah, I haven't had any success actually incorporating any of the lights into the dreams at this point. I see Dash has her hand raised if you want to have any input here.
Yeah, I also have tried devices. I was gonna talk about them, unless people still want to talk about the Somnimask. Actually, I want to know.
No, talk about it. Yeah, it would be great to hear.
Okay. Although I did want to know, what is the Somnimask like? it's not a timer. It's detecting REM, or what is it doing?
Yeah, it detects REM with eye movements. So you can here. Let me. I'm gonna plug it in. So this is one thing too. It doesn't have an app. You have to plug it in with the USB, which I'm doing now, and then push the button, and then you go to a website to configure it. And I'll show you what that looks like. It'll just take me like maybe 10 seconds here to do this. So bear with me a sec. But I think this will be worth showing the group. So when you go to somnia.org-program, you're presented with a bunch of different settings, which is kind of pretty cool, but also a bit of overload. Like I would rather there be less complexity or less decisions for me to make, but also knowing that like this is maybe you know, like what works for some might not work for all. Having this level of personalization actually could help once you find the right kind of combination of settings. For instance, you can choose different types of light, from red to green to blue to violet. So I thought that was kind of interesting. By default, they have blue light, which would seem kind of odd at first because that tends to be disruptive to sleep. That's why people wear blue light blocking glasses at night to improve their sleep. But maybe that could help raise awareness in dreams. I know Northwestern uses red light in their lab. But anyways, you can adjust the LED. You can adjust like sensitivity of like different sensors in the device, from head movements to eye movements. And you can adjust things like how many eye movements to detect before it actually initiates the LED lights. Like right now I have it set to 15. So like once it measures like, okay, there's 15 eye movements, then it turns on the LED lights.
Well, that's interesting because like I feel like that's one of the hardest thing, like they should have figured that out, so is what I'm thinking. Because that's like a very difficult, I don't know, when I'm doing the REM detection for my device, like I feel like that part's the hard part to know. And like they should do more to figure out what it should be and not have the customer figure it out.
Yeah. And I think, you know, they've hopefully spent some time, you know, being thoughtful about what the default settings are. But yeah, it's I think like maybe it would pay to abstract away some of the complexity here, where there's less kind of like decision fatigue for the end user, like figure out like what kind of like collection of settings is right for me.
But yeah, I mean, detecting REM should not be that difficult, right? Even the Apple Watch can detect that very easily. So some algorithm, once there's enough data to like measure your sleep regularly, right? I mean, Brian, you still look at Aura where you have the sleep ring?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you probably very accurately can measure when someone is in REM, right?
We
device.
Well, it's a bit tricky because you're measuring like kind of brain signals from the finger or the wrist. We just released some new research. We're just updating the algorithm with Marco Alatini and some other people on our team that showed up to 79% agreement across sleep stages, which at first glance seems like not that accurate, but that's actually pretty good when you consider that's across 4 distinct sleep stages. So random variance would get you at like 25% agreement. And then going off on a little bit of a tangent, but polysomnography is the gold standard. And if you have 2 humans scoring the same, you know, polysomnography data, they're going to get about 80% agreement. So there is an upper limit of, you know, what you can record as accurate based on that ground truth, which is kind of like squishy, just based on like some of the subjectivity of classifying sleep stages. But yeah, I think we do pretty well, or like probably good enough to be able to like identify or have like a pretty good idea when somebody's in REM, even if it's not 100%, you know, on point.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but so I think most of the devices, and I have to assume Aura probably works this way too, are inferring the REM because your body's not moving. Because when you move into a REM state, one of the unique things about that particular sleep stage is that there's a motor, your body is paralyzed basically. So you might move for a second and actually have a micro awakening, which happens. But basically speaking, if you're moving, you're not in REM, whereas it could be other sleep stages. So I think a lot of times, it's a little bit of like a machine learning kind of a thing going on. So it knows that, okay, this person, isn't making big movements, so they're in bed. It can tell that, and then it, maybe it's in Aura's case, it's probably looking at your temperature and heart rate and other things. But the big, but the big tell when somebody's in REM is that there is no movement. So. And then you can probably also infer a bit more because you know that the sleep cycles are happening approximately every 90 minutes. So, with most people, you shouldn't be seeing that like 10 minutes goes away, 10, unless there's, it's a disturbed sleep cycle. A question I've got though actually about the Somnimask is, does that allow you to, is it logging any data that you can, examine the next day in a very specific way, perhaps?
Yeah, they actually have data logs. When you plug it into the USB, you're able to see these kind of log files, which I can open one up, and we'll see if I can share my screen in the correct way to show you what one looks like, just to give you kind of a brief, like, rough idea. Maybe as I'm doing that, quick point on detecting REM. Yeah, you're right. It's a combination of various sensors, and accelerometer is good for the motion, but we're fortunate to have time series data for temperature in the Oura Ring, and there are differences in heart rate and heart rate variability in different sleep stages too. So it's like really the combination of different sensor signals, and then it kind of becomes a machine learning problem to solve.
So I know Aura doesn't have a live API, but you can't ask the Oura Ring like if somebody is currently in REM, and they do it after. But does the Oura Ring know if the person is currently in REM and you just can't access it? Is it possible that it could be live one day, or does it have to calculate it all after?
Right now, it's all calculated on the whole night data. So it's and we've talked about this before, because there's a lot of different partner and developer use cases that would be improved by more real-time sleep staging, but the current algorithm is operates on the entire data set, so it's all retrospective kind of calculation. But yeah, maybe there's and this is me just speculating, not even having my Oura hat on, but I do think maybe there's kind of these proxy kind of sensor measurements that do good enough that can be more real time, as far as accelerometer data, if that could be streamed. Then maybe it gets to Bill's point where maybe that's good enough because your body's paralyzed in REM, if that's easier to kind of handle as a rough proxy for REM, relative to the entire data set and associated calculations that have to happen in the cloud. But yeah, right now we don't have the real time.
So about the Somni, I mean, you said you didn't find it very successful yet, and that's because you didn't register the cues, or the device was not good at sending those cues.
Yeah, at first I kept going into test mode here. But you can see test mode. So that was that was kind of my some of my fault to begin with. But then I'll show you one where it actually gets into and again, we don't have to go through log files all night, but it might be some of this might be interesting to people as far as the kind of data you can get.
Oh wow.
It'll show you okay, detected eye movement 1, 2, 3, 4, and it'll increment by 1. Rapid eye movement detected, and it's playing MP3 files, and gives you an update on battery. And
I mean, I think there's utility for these kinds of devices and data for cross-correlating when developing devices, especially on a budget.
Yeah. And this data is all proprietary, right? It's not open source.
I don't think they have an API or a way to like access the more raw data. At least not that I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like we really can't build a device that's based on like, you know, closed systems. Like that's going to be so problematic down the road, you know, like, yeah. I bet that's another thing. Yeah.
But yeah,
Would it be, you mean?
What's that?
You said you can't build a device that's based on closed systems. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, look, I mean, if we go far down the road, if we have a company that's able to reliably induce lucid dreams for people, and people will be stuck using that system, which is in a closed system, which then will be given, I don't know what kind of advertising, or I mean, all kinds of like horrible things. I mean, just like sort of like Web 2.0 now is working, you know, with Facebook and Google. I mean, we don't want to reinstall that kind of system in the brain with dreams. And so I think like we need to start now building open source systems. And, you know, I mean, sure, there can be commercial endeavors, profits, but I think like we'll just like be way better at making more progress anyway if we have it open source in some sense. It's just otherwise, like, what kind of future are we building here? You know, I mean, this is basically we're building a new world. That's really what it is. It comes down to like, you know, we don't want to build it that's controlled by private entities, basically. Yeah, but I mean, that's something else. We can talk about this later. Like, it's still like good data, you know. That you can, like,
yeah, I'd be curious what like other people think about that, especially people in here who are like in companies where there are proprietary things. And
I think
yeah.
I am not worried about this because, you know, it's hard for me to conceive in this particular case, in this particular technology, something so proprietary and built in a hidden way that it can't be reverse engineered, or anyone who gets their hand on the device and breaks it apart, you know, can't with some knowledge figure out how it's done. I think this is not one of those things that will become proprietary.
I mean, I mean, we can talk about this later, but I disagree very much. Like in terms of like, you know, we want to create
give an example.
Well, I mean, like, you know, the data. I mean, again, if you extrapolate in the future, when we have brain computer interfaces, and then we have some sort of virtual dream. Like obviously, private companies, you know, would monetize on those dreams, like Facebook and Google do today. I mean, we've had examples, you know, through the internet, plenty of times. It's like naive to think that it's not going to happen now with like brain computers. You know, maybe not like when, you know, we're building like some tools right now to like access lucid dreaming, but like, you know, we need to build a foundation now for something like this. I think that's very, very important. Otherwise, how are we going to apply ethics and, you know, other kind of like, you know, things that we think are important into a system that's closed or controlled by companies? Like it's not possible, you know? And like, I think like, yeah, I think that's very, very important. Like otherwise, like, anyway, but I don't want to distract from like, you know, which was like, let's talk about the device itself and look for signal. But yeah, I think like, I mean, unless you can argue something against that, which happy to debate that. But I think like, you know, the evidence is pretty strong with like how the internet evolved, that basically we cannot go again in that direction. You know, I mean, yeah. Happy to talk more about this later, but yeah, let's talk about something else maybe.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like nobody knows quite what will happen in the future, and good to be cautious and have the right kind of like ethical kind of like guardrails in place. Not sure how that actually gets regulated or who regulates it or like how that gets enforced. But I think, you know, we don't know if it's like one device that to own, like to rule them all, or if it's like 5.
Yeah, no, right. But I mean, let's like the API access is going to be restricted potentially by a company. Then you have to ask for permission. I mean, no way. We need permissionless systems where people can tinker and experiment and like, you know, figure out things that, you know, private companies might not allow. I mean, yeah, I think like that's just going to be way better. Make it more I mean, the one thing is make it more accessible in terms of like make lucid dreaming more accessible, but also make it more accessible for the world to build on top of like, you know, this kind of like, you know, thing that we're working, like building, right? I think that's also very important. And like, yeah. Anyway, we can debate about this another time.
So, you know, so first of all, before I counter argue, I would agree 100% with the fact that if we can have a lot of this stuff open source and shared and collaborated with, it would be better. And maybe that's the way to go regardless, and enough people maybe want to do that, that it's, you know, it's going to happen. It's like the OpenAI project, right? Forget them. Or
well,
OpenAI
is not really open.
But yeah, OpenAI, but at least as far as the intention. But in this particular case, again, if you're envisioning this kind of future, you have to envision some specifics about it that would even cause it to be the case. Because when you say, oh, if you don't have access to the API, I mean, somnography, like you know, detecting Rem is for the most part, at least with the EEG, is a solved problem. And maybe somebody can refine the thing and increase it from 78% to 82 or whatever. It's not proprietary. That knowledge already exists. And if you're talking now about the component that induces lucidity, that was my point earlier. It's hard for me at the moment to conceive of something that couldn't be easily understood by qualified engineers, so they can build something similar. Now, there still could be a problem of just monopoly out of the fact that some company has a lot of money and good marketing and all of that, but that has nothing to do with proprietary knowledge. That is just, you know, monopoly behavior and things like that, which is its own problem. But it really is hard for me to conceive in this particular case, what would be the proprietary mechanism that will allow someone to not reveal it and get the advantage.
I mean, again, I think we can talk about this later, but I feel very strongly about if we're going into a future where brain-computer interface are being developed, and then potentially, you know, basically what I've been working for many years now is a network between brains and computers. Like, I feel very strongly about making sure that that network is open and permissionless, and that foundation is created in such a way that people from all over the world without permission can essentially build upon the system, and it doesn't hinge upon a few companies that create that system. I mean, that's what it comes down to for me. Sort of architecting a system from the ground up that is like enabled in such a way that everyone can like basically come and build something upon it. Because I don't want to create a future where dreams are going to be controlled by like few people. Like, it should be a utility, a public utility of sort. And I think like that is something that we need to think about now and implement now. Already brain-computer interface companies are, you know, in the hands of private companies like Neuralink, Kernel, other companies.
Well, I see. Well, maybe.
And I think that's what we need to think about, you know, and not these like Kickstarter campaign. I mean, they're not going to define like, you know, basically access to lucid dreaming like for long. I mean, if we're actually talking about like, anyway, I mean, we can talk about this another time. Like, you know, I think Brian maybe wants to continue, but I'm happy to talk about more about this. I mean, I think about this every day. Like, you know, I think it's a good.
I think it's a good discussion. I think we can probably wrap it in the next like minute or two. So I think it's.
Yeah, we can talk about this another time. I mean, like, this is like an ongoing dialogue. I think, you know, I mean, we can talk about this another time, but like, you know, I guess I've made my point clear. Like, it's like, you know, we can talk about this.
I understand
more later.
Your point better. I understand your point better now. I think it's just useful to make the distinction between brain-computer interfaces in a technology that just induces lucid dreaming. If you're talking about things and communicating in two-directional or baked into your brain or installed, you know, through various, you know, technologies, that's a whole other thing. And over there, I would 100% agree. But technology that just induces lucid dreaming, I don't see a scenario to where I would worry so far.
But yes, that's a problem. You need to think about the end game. Otherwise, it's like, okay, well, we'll just do this.
Those are different technologies. Yeah.
Well, no, but they're all going into the same direction, more or less, you know. And I think like it's just like then like they'll have more power, and then with that more power, then well, okay, it should be this way. People are like addicted to that technology now.
BCIs,
not BCIs. I mean, who knows? Like, I mean, I'm trying to also be open, like what exactly will enable this. But it seems like right now, brain computers are probably most qualified to like enable something like virtual dreams or, you know, more access to lucid dreams. Anyway, I mean, yeah, we can talk about this another time. I just think like, you know, sort of like how the United States was founded, you know, they had to think about, you know, obviously it was flawed in many ways at the beginning, but they had to think about some things, you know, 100, 200 years out in the future. And same thing here, I think, especially with neuroscience. Actually, I remember going to a conference.
Yeah, let's go to a.
Let's wrap up. Yeah.
I think it's worth bringing up, but as far as, you know, like devices, it's a critical topic that like it's going to only become more important as far as you know, who owns the data, what do they do with the data, how open is the data, different ways to structure that. Nobody quite knows how the future is going to develop. It's good to be cautious. I think you know, we've hit on some of those topics here. Maybe there could be a, you know, expanded session on that particular topic in a future event too. So I think there's a lot there. Like we were just kind of like scratching at the surface of it here. But you know, it's a very important issue. But let's kind of get back to just more kind of discussions around various types of devices and, you know, experiences people have had with devices that induce lucid dreams. I know Dash, you had mentioned you've worked with a few of these before, right? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I have the Rem Dreamer PRO, and that used infrared to detect eye movement. And then it would flash lights in your eyes, and it would play some sound that you recorded beforehand. So I recorded me going, "Dashel, you're dreaming." And first thing I noticed was it was really uncomfortable. So I would like take it off in my sleep. So I had to put padding onto it so that I would stop taking it off during my sleep. So that was the first thing. Then you could like calibrate the brightness and stuff, and sometimes it would wake me up because it'd be too bright, and then other times I just like wouldn't see it. And I don't know, like it wasn't so like, oh, it definitely worked, you know? But there were some times when I wore it and I had a lucid dream. I think I didn't wear it too many times, but I had like 2 lucid dreams with it. And I didn't know if it was coincidence, like, well, I'm doing wake back to bed because I'm waking up in the night to put it on and I'm thinking about lucid dreaming, or did I hear the sound? Did I hear me saying, "Dashel, you're dreaming," and kind of think it was my own mentation, thinking, oh, I just realized I'm dreaming, and not realize that it was the mask. So that was like, I don't know. I don't know if that was totally successful or not. It wasn't like, it was kind of expensive, and it didn't do what I wanted. I wanted it to be like a magic pill. I've also
you didn't see the actual like lights incorporated into your dream, or like the sounds explicitly incorporated into your dream, right?
Yeah, it wasn't like super clear that it was working. And I had more success with like a tiny Arduino one that I made that would run on a timer, and it just flashed in your eyes, which is similar to what Remee is, just runs on a timer. So I kind of lost faith in lucid dream masks, but then I did study at Northwestern, and they're basically replicating a mask, but a human is controlling it. So the human is watching your polysomnograph in real time, and they're waiting for you to be in REM, and then they're playing sounds when you're in REM, and they're playing lights, they're flashing lights, and they're using their human brain to like figure out how much light and how much sound and at what time. And with all of that, they were able to do it to me like many times. And it was so good. So that like reignited my faith in the possibility of a lucid dreaming mask that could really work. But like it has to really replicate like what the humans in the lab can do. Cause like if Karen Conkley, when she was here last time, like she talked a little bit about it because she's the researcher at Northwestern that does this stuff. And like she's looking at a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's, I totally forgot. She talked about it last time, but she talked about it might be that when your eyes like the light should flash right after your eyes move and not while not while they're moving. I think that's what she said. Like, because then you're not looking at something else in the dream, and the lights, you'll recognize the lights. Like, so she's thinking about all these little things that the masks probably aren't taking into account. And
right.
Yeah. So that
It's
just
like you
made me
need
think.
it's like you need the algorithms to automate what Karen was doing in the lab there, right? Like
yeah.
eyes pointed in the right direction. And do you know if she was ramping up the intensity of the lights and sounds as she went
was.
through?
Yeah,
Okay,
and actually that's what the Rem Dreamer Pro did also, but I don't know. It didn't work. But like, so she's turning it up. She also calibrates it beforehand with you. She'll be like, just like ask me, what do you think? Like, do you think this light is too much? Do you think this sound is too much? Like, I want you to tell me like the amount that is the lowest, but you still notice it and stuff like that. And then like the next night, she'll take whatever she learned about you from that night and apply it. You know, there's like a lot going on. And I think if you can bottle that up into a microchip, like it can work. But I think what's missing from a lot of these masks is that like they don't have someone working on it who has all that experience. Like I don't have all that experience, and I'm making a mask and like I'm already seeing like the things I'm not thinking about, and I'll text Karen and I'll be like, hey, like, I don't know if the REM detection is going, like, this is how I'm detecting it every, every 4 seconds, this many, whatever. And she'll be like, oh, no. When I was in the lab, you made a signal like once in 8 seconds, and like your algorithm would not have detected it, but I detected it when I was watching it. So like, the algorithms, they need to copy more of what the human experience as a sleep scorer, is doing.
And was the light more important or the sound?
They both triggered me. I think the light was more though, because for me, like the sounds, I a lot of times like I would incorporate them and I would notice them later, like, and I'd be like, oh yeah, she wake me up from a dream. Like, yeah, I did notice those sounds, but like they're so kind of like subtle that I just like it didn't stop me. But the lights stop you, because it's like if you see them, like one time I thought it was like lightning, like it's green lightning in the middle of a kitchen. So like that's not normal. Or like I talked about the story with the cops. I thought the cops were flashing lights, and I was like, and I was in big trouble, and they caught me for killing someone. And then I was like, no, I'm just dreaming. So like the big things that stop you like happen with the lights more for me. Some people, maybe the sound triggers them more. And also maybe it depends on different like subtleties of when you're more susceptible to the light trigger or the sound trigger. Maybe Karen would know better,
Yeah, no, it's like we gotta shrink Karen down into the microchip and automate what she's doing. And then there's also this aspect, which I think is a good insight around personalization. Like what kind of protocol works for one person won't work for everybody, or there's like different, intensities or hues of light, or like maybe different pulses. It seems like there's probably this need for personalization and this kind of device more than like other consumer devices. As far as like people's brains are just different and they react to stimuli different, and like definitely feels like there should be like a calibration period or like personalization feedback loop that that helps improve the reliability of such a device.
I think it's cool that the what is Somnimask? Yeah. I think that it's cool that they have an accelerometer on it, because like that was missing from the Rem Dreamer Pro, and that's missing from my device. But one thing Karen had, which is like similar but better, is an EMG, like right here. So detecting muscle tone. And like if you have no muscle tone here, then it's like that shows that you're asleep, so you're not moving your eyes and awake, you're moving your eyes and you're asleep, so you're in REM.
It has to be here in this location, or?
That's where they always put it, and I don't know if there are other spots. I don't really know. That's where they put it.
The MIT Media Lab is working on this sleep mask to it's kind of like they're promoting it as maybe not promoting it, but they're it's kind of like the sleep lab in a like a sleep lab and a sleep mask kind of thing. And they have an EMG, but it's like more up here, which I think is probably not. You probably get less signal, relative to down here, but like I think they can at least like tease out signal to noise well enough up here where the mask is. I will drop a link into the not literally a link, because we have a link participating in the event, but a link in a URL in the.
And Josh, you mentioned you lost hope for the for the mask, right? Like, were you then thinking about maybe like another kind of device, like not the mask?
That's interesting. Yeah, actually, so I kind of lumped them together, but like my device is not a mask. It was going to sort of be, but now after I went to Northwestern, it's more of like an environment. Oh, actually, I have a little bit of it here because I have to. So like this is how it induces it. It's like got a long LED strip and that hangs over me. So I'm like sleeping in bed and this is hanging over me. And I have electrodes on my face. So it's more comfortable for me to not have the mask on. And but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to not be a mask.
So it could be like a Philips Hue light, and then basically it shines upon you, and then you have electrodes here.
And that's how Northwestern did it. And so I was just like, it worked. So I'm like pretty much tried to copy everything they did. I was starting this project before I went to Northwestern, and then when I went there, I was like, I want to change everything because like their thing just like works so well. But yeah, they have a human running it. That's all their advantage, and I don't.
Maybe we can create a hotel and people, visit, and then they got to go into the capsule, where they have all the setup and there's people giving all the signals.
Yeah, I mean, also like if you had more people, like it's actually not a bad idea to like try to do this manually to get more data on it, like there's so much data that Karen has that you could try to like, reverse engineer, figure out how to detect this stuff with the computer.
Well, maybe the people trying to scale too quickly with the mask, they're trying to have already mature algorithms when it needs to be more, like you said, manual input for now, and then build upon that, so you have actually something that works, because there's so many masks on the market, right? And none of them seem to really reliably work.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like, I think people have to start like more, like focus on just getting it to work and getting people to use it in like, it doesn't have to be so sleek. Like everyone's just moving to try to make it sleek and cool, but it doesn't work. Like it needs to be usable so that people are like demanding that it's sleek, and like people are focusing but you're right, people are focusing on scaling it too fast, I think.
Well, all these other gadgets.
Maybe that's where some of these more unconventional kind of like form factors come in, where like maybe it's more of a system where there's like a light kind of component, and then there's like something very like lightweight that you just put on here. Like some people just don't like wearing sleep masks at all. It's like if that's a usability issue, like if it's just like little stickers or like something that's very like simple to wear, maybe that's a way to get more people using it. Obviously, it's got to work first and foremost.
I mean, the other thing is Brian Johnson, who has now sort of released some of his brain-computer interface products. Apparently, there's like one team that's also focused on lucid dreaming. I don't know if you've heard anything about that, Brian.
No, but, sounds cool.
I mean, that's maybe potentially something, because I guess the kernel can measure other things. But I don't know, maybe it's like we're trying to look for something too fancy. We just need something simple that actually works. And it's like, I don't know, like it's kind of like amazing that you were able to go to Northwestern and like reliably, have that, effect, give you results, right? So it's like, how can we just create something like that, basically? Like, yeah,
because Dash, it was like, was it pretty much every time you slept in the sleep lab, you got the signal from her, or like what was kind of the hit rate?
So the thing that kept me from getting lucid mostly was just the inability to sleep, but because like you have like performance anxiety of like, I have to sleep to give them data. So once I started falling asleep, it was more regular that the induction would work. But like, I guess, yeah, it's just like, I wonder what she would say though, because like I know that she did have some people who just didn't, I feel like didn't react to it at all. So I don't know, but maybe also she got better over time with it. So
but you also like
yeah.
advanced lucid dreamer, right? I mean, most people will not come from that kind of level, right? Even if they have like,
yeah,
I'm not sure.
and that's actually,
yeah. Have they had like people like come in with no experience and then also have the same results, or like?
that's a good question. I know that I feel like they started not calling those people back in. Yeah. So like her results were like, her induction was more reliable over time because she kept calling the people back who would lucid dream.
Right.
You know, I even like for some of the studies that I participated in, I got lucid without the induction. So like a lot of time, and because you're doing like wake back to bed and stuff all the time, like she's constantly waking up. But but I even think like it's still like so much closer. Like it's still better than I think the masks. And I think even if you're using people who are more advanced, like still that data is better and closer to figuring it out than putting together. Like I think a lot of these companies are just throwing together things that they think are going to work. Let's start a company, but like I think like they're not focusing on
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying, yeah, they just like haven't done the testing to prove that it actually works and works at scale. With
they're not like focused on the MVP, like just getting something to work, get it to work. Like it could be made out of cardboard, but it works.
But sometimes I think, No, sorry, go ahead.
And it just like that early adopters will use it, like focusing on early adopters and not like something. I think that's just how you have to start. Like people who are already really into lucid dreaming and they are going to pay a lot to use something that looks bad and like is clunky, but
it works.
Yeah, but it works.
And I'm hoping like I'm hoping that's what some of this group can do too, is like get. So I got a crying baby in the other room. All right.
That's your reality check.
Yeah. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, no, I think
something about the group getting those results.
Oh yeah. No, I think like we can get kind of scrappy as far as like
Okay.
Yeah, as far as like trying out different projects at like different levels of fidelity, or like trying out different devices at different levels of fidelity, and like could be somebody that's like developing something in this group, but then they have like 5 prototypes they can share with people, and get some very willing beta testers to kind of like work the kinks out. I think that will be a good kind of use of this group, as far as like kind of clunking through some of those early phase devices when it's like made out of cardboard and duct tape. To be able to do that more.
Yeah, I'm just also wondering the expectation in terms of like people who have like almost no experience, and then like trying like to present them this magical device, and it's like very difficult to produce that when like you also have to kind of train people in some way of like how to sort of like train yourself to wake up in your dream. And like I guess the masks do none of that, right? I mean, it's just like basically you wear it at night and that's pretty much it, right? And I think like if I take like a very advanced meditator, I mean, they're able to lucid dream every night. It's just like, lucid dreaming is also about building attentive skills and being sort of like, aware of your sort of like environment, your reality, and constantly like questioning it, being critical of it. Like, I think like, because what I'm doing personally, like, I also have to think about, okay, how can I build interface that actually works now, because what I'm talking about is quite far out. And it's like, okay, how can you make it more accessible in terms of like, also helping people like sort of like train those things. Not just like, okay, here, just wear something at night and then that's it, and then people have almost like it's kind of like meditation, where like meditation takes time, and patience, and like, you can't just wear some magic device and then all of a sudden you meditate, I mean, there's all these things that help, but sort of like running as well. And I think maybe lucid dreaming is the same, like all these fancy devices, but at the end of the day, you just have to like, go running, and like go practice it.
Yeah, and like, I think there's I think there's definitely some parallels there, and I do think these kind of mental techniques serve as a good foundation to you know, if somebody has kind of the mindfulness aspects down, dream recall, they're probably going to have more success using a device to get lucid. I do think more of the holy grail is give a device to somebody that doesn't know anything about lucid dreaming, doesn't do any of those techniques, and then it just works. Like they're able to lucid dream that night, or like, you know, with a 50% probability or greater. Like you know, and I don't think that needs to be version 1. Like I think version 1 could be for people that already kind of have an aptitude for lucid dreaming, but it just gets them, you know, like to be able to do it more on demand. But I think like this thing really takes off when it's like works for everybody kind of thing, regardless of if you do that kind of like foundational techniques. And then hopefully it's kind of like akin to the, you know, psychedelics with meditation. You know, like sometimes you can reach a pretty profound state through psychedelics that, you know, takes people decades to do through meditation. Like maybe you can give people a taste of a deep lucid dreaming state through a device or a supplement, and then they're going to be more inspired to do the more foundational techniques from after having that kind of experience.
But so what's missing? I mean, because there's been so many people trying to build devices, and it seems like none of them really work. Like, so because the thing is, at the same time, brain-computer interfaces are being developed. So in a few years, like, I don't think that we even need something like. So like, what's happened? Like, why can't we build something like this? It's like, you know, I mean, some people have tried. I guess. Like, why is it like? It's like, what's
Bill,
missing? You know.
Bill, you want to take this, or should I?
Oh, you're on mute, Bill. There you go.
You have to unmute yourself, Bill.
Oh, Jay, go ahead. You please respond.
The bottom line, I think, is that we don't fully understand how lucidity works in the brain and during sleep. We don't we don't understand the brain completely, let alone, you know, understanding every mechanism and every correlation between what is happening in the brain and what is happening experientially. And sleep, much of sleep is still a mystery, let alone, you know, conscious experiences of altered states of sort like lucidity. And there are theories, but we don't really know what happens different. Like, what is the change and why you don't just wake up, but rather kind of gain self-reflection and other attributes back while the dream is still happening. And so to induce lucidity, other than by, you know, techniques that sort of kind of, we don't, even with the existing techniques, we don't really know how they work. We have some general connections and theories and understanding that there's a relation to awareness and memory. And so if you meditate and do perspective memory and things like that, you'll end up with, you know, hopefully, not everybody even does, but some people will end up with some infrequent or frequent lucidity. But to induce this technologically would require really ultimately understanding how it works, or stumbling upon a mechanism similarly to some prescription drugs that we know that they work, but don't really understand how they do what they do precisely. And so we are in the process of trying a hit or miss kind of best guesses, educated guesses and attempts until we stumble upon something that works. And even when it does, we might not necessarily understand fully how that works.
Hmm.
So Jay and Bill, are you working on something like together, or?
We've had some conversations. We're not actively operating, but I think we're simpatico.
Definitely. We're individually working on stuff, but again, I agree with Brian and Dash, and I am hoping that sooner or later we'll be able to share more knowledge. And even if, you know, one day I do figure this out and put it on the market, I don't necessarily see why. I personally don't find a reason to like keep the solution, so to speak, hidden. But
as a company, you have to, right? If you create a company,
you don't have to. You can be a profitable, successful company that open sources everything they have. I mean, look at Blender. But you know, I'm going to compete, if at all, on having a device that is simple, that works for more people, that has feature that actually, you know, people care about, and that it makes it the simplest possible for people who have a hard time with, you know, looking at that setting screen for the Somnimask made me dizzy. Like this is not a beginner setting page. So there are other things, right? Like Brian said, you know, if once you have the technology, if it's a similar technology to something that could affect if you're modulating brainwaves, let's say, for example, you could modulate delta for improving deep sleep. Now you have more tools and more applications for the same technology in theory, and you can do more with that. And once you give people access to lucidity itself and to lucid dreaming, then you can also help people guide them as to what to do. You can provide devices to medical institutions, to researchers, to other people, and we can maybe help study consciousness. That's half of the reason why the neuroscientists are really studying lucid dreaming. Most of them are for the study of consciousness, not just for creating a device. So that's my approach, and ultimately I've always built this because I want it to exist. If I can make a business and it can be profitable, that would be amazing, but that is a secondary bonus rather than the goal.
And I do see, maybe I'll try to connect a few dots here. I know I definitely see parallels with Aura. We got a pretty open API and encourage developers to pull in Aura data to make their user experiences better, but don't have a lot of fear on them supplanting us as far as, we know our customers better than competitors, and can just keep improving the user experience in ways that are difficult to replicate due to how we, understand the customer and what they want, problems we're trying to solve for them. So I think like there's a clear way to get that competitive differentiation, short of data access. I do think I like that concept of trying to stumble upon a mechanism short of understanding, like having the 100% fidelity map of the brain and how it works. Like stumbling onto a mechanism through hit or miss. It's not the most like elegant way to do it, but like that might be what needs to happen, and maybe that's what Karen was doing in the lab as far as like, okay, she's not lucid yet, I'm going to turn this knob. Is that working? Nope, her eyes are not facing the right way. I'm going to turn this knob, or like turn it up. So it seems like she was kind of, working through some of that, probably like with educated guesses, like based on her, like pretty good knowledge of how things work. But did seem like a bit of trial and error happening there too.
Yeah, I'll jump in too by saying I'm sort of with Jay also, and with Brian saying that I'm not too worried that there's going to be anything that's going to come out there that's going to be like proprietary, in the sense that like meditation techniques aren't proprietary. I mean, I think that once something is working for people, people are having an experience, and they'll probably know what's going on with that experience, and other people could do it. I do, but I will say with Brian, and this is based on my own experience, is that the devil is in the details on these things. So if you're if you're trying to get to something that is an elegant, good experience, there's a lot that goes into that that's not proprietary per se. It's just being able to design a good experience, test it with enough people, work out the kinks, so, and I think also, just as with so many other things in the world, like, I think once something is kind of working well, great, there'll be, a couple companies that are doing this thing, but, what'll differentiate them will be like how well they are doing it, and how good of an experience that is for the people that are actually using the thing. That's my opinion based on some experience with this.
Yeah, and I did see in the chat, I saw Benson had asked if anybody's used the Remee mask, so I want to quickly touch on that. Benson, this is what for those that don't know, this is what the Remee mask looks like. I don't think it's very good. It's pretty inexpensive. It's on a time delay. It's just arbitrarily after a certain time will shine lights in your eyes. It doesn't do any REM detection. I haven't had any success with it, and I think it's kind of on the lower tier of lucid dreaming devices. But just want to address that question.
Yeah, this is my lucid dreaming mask. It doesn't do anything.
I fell for the marketing traps. Well, thanks, you guys.
Yeah, it's worth a shot. Like I'm willing to try all of these things once. There's even one that without opening a can of worms, there's one called like Deep Tech Cube, which I think is in pre-order now. The Aura hardware CTO sent it to me back in the day. It's a Russian company, and apparently it uses like magnetic pulses to try to both improve sleep and include lucidity.
Wait, where do you put that?
Because it was freaking me out, because when I got it, my wife was pregnant. I didn't want to like bombard us with magnetic waves while she was sleeping next to me. But I might try this one out again.
How does it work? You just put it next to where you sleep?
Yeah, they say to place it 50 to 100 centimeters away from you. Not to place it, not to
the
place
Russian
it
government
too close, though, they say in the instructions.
Whoa. Do they like post somewhere about how that's supposed to work?
They have yeah, let me get the website up real quick. But it was kind of funny. I was digging through my old devices earlier today. Like I'm trying to biohack my way out of the sickness. So I was looking for my glucometer that I have, and I have my like my
Relations so long, we forgot what it's like to just have ordinary colds and things.
Yeah,
I still think like it's actually the hardware is not the distinguishing factor. It's actually the algorithm. So it makes me like think like actually it's important to have the algorithm open source. Otherwise, like any company that will have a dominating algorithm will keep it private. Like I'm not really convinced like how a company would then share the algorithm. Like why would they? Like that's how they keep all the customers.
I bet it's gonna, and nobody knows for sure, but I bet it will develop in kind of a similar way as the wearable market, where there's multiple options, different algorithms that kind of go towards the same direction and accomplish similar objectives in different ways. I guess I'm not convinced it's going to be one algorithm.
Well, right now there's zero basically right now, right?
Yeah,
it really works.
Nobody's found out how to shrink down Karen into an algo. Like the new Space Jam movie, when Don Cheadle is apparently an algorithm. I don't know if people have seen that. Maybe not without kids. Yeah, it's kind of a weird website here, that this deep sleep thing. It's like, I'll drop it in the chat. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm curious to check it out.
How old is this?
I'll try most things once.
I got older?
it back in I think late 2019, early 2020.
Okay.
But I kind of forgot I had it. It was in my closet, so I need to.
And the Aura Ring, is it helping you in any way with lucid dreaming?
Not really. It's more of I use it more as like a fascination after I have a lucid dream to see how that sleep stage is characterized when I'm lucid. So that's kind of how I use it. Oh, and while I'm sharing, this is another link I dropped in the chat. This is the MIT Media Lab mask. I think it's still under construction, but you can see it's got pretty much the entire sensor set as a PSG, or polysomnography, where you can see it's got the EMGs at the bottom here. So it's like more at the cheek, less at the chin.
And they have an EOG right near it.
Yeah, so they must be hitting it from the bottom.
And they have an EOG go vertical and horizontal.
Yeah, so like something like this could be pretty interesting, or at least demonstrates the ability to kind of do that sophisticated sleep sensing, which I don't think is totally necessary for a lucid dreaming device. It's as long as you're able to kind of hit the REM sleep in real time, you might not need something that's sophisticated to do it effectively. But anyways, I thought this was kind of a cool project that they're doing.
But don't you really think? I mean, sort of like Coca-Cola keeps its recipe private, like for a very long time. Not sure that's the best analogy, but like if actually there's a device that can like reliably induce lucid dreaming to even people who have no idea what lucid dreaming is, like that is very, very valuable. Like I'm not sure, like as a company, there's zero incentive to share that, to make the mode open, like unless someone can convince me otherwise.
Yeah, there's a jump in explanation there, right? So you're saying, oh, somebody figures it out, and there's an algorithm involved, and nobody knows that algorithm exactly, and then they can just keep it to themselves. But the jump is that they figured it out. It really boils down to how does it actually work, and to even conceive of a way in which it could work, you would have to, rely on some again, unless some magical new technology kind of comes out, which seems just not as likely, it's not impossible, but you would have to actually explain, like you would have to come up or imagine an example of like, oh, somebody figures out a really, really good algorithm for, you know, modulating brainwaves using alternating current stimulation. Let's say that that works, right? And we just missed the right frequency or the right, you know, whatever. And then you have an actual mechanism. And that mechanism wouldn't be hard to figure out from there, especially if you have the device in hand. But if you're imagining like some other new technology that none of us have thought of, that is far less likely to happen just by sheer, you know, physics or neuroscience, because it's hard.
Yeah, but aren't some like products like it's all about their algorithm? Like Aura, like everyone knows what sensors they are. Their API is open, but their algorithm isn't, and their algorithm is like what makes them so valuable is that they can take these whatever 4 sensors and score sleep from it so accurately, you know. So I mean, you could just you could say, yeah, well,
that's a fair point.
I could replicate, you know, I could just keep using AI to like try to figure it out based on 4 sensors that the same device uses. I mean, I guess you could kind of do that, but like their algorithm, it does seem to be like the value, one of the, like a big valuable part of their product.
Yeah, but it's not like every other company who does something similar has 10% accuracy, right? So, you know, there are a bunch of competitors of all kinds with similar, you know, sensors and similar mechanisms. And I don't know the numbers exactly, but I know there are some that do, you know, fairly reliable. They're probably not, you know, they don't have the leg up that Aura has started, you know, probably earlier, I'm guessing. I don't know, Brian might know more of that. But the example I was thinking about was, you know, REM detection itself. You know, I just found a bunch of data for, you know, that was scored for REM, and I gave it to a PhD student to come to, you know, to write an algorithm that will, you know, match, you know, some success rate. And this was using a single, like this was based on a paper for a single electrode, trying to detect REM with a single electrode. And it took him a few weeks to come up with something that works, you know, at least on paper, very reliably.
But that doesn't solve the, I mean, that doesn't solve the puzzle. And like, it doesn't also say like, you know, if someone actually has something that actually works, like there's network effect that comes from capital flowing into that company, which will then like basically increase competitiveness for that company and like just like cement like how it can dominate the market, you know?
Another, I think another way to look at that too, if somebody does crack the code, then like people like buy into their solution, lucid dreaming becomes wildly popular, that company becomes popular. I think that puts a target on that company's back as far as some other companies going to develop their algorithms to do substantially the same thing, assuming they don't have any kind of, you know, secret sauce as far as like they found the one data scientist that was able to crack the code ever. I think when the value is demonstrated by somebody that cracks the code, there's going to be a lot of new entrants that come in and create their own devices and algorithms. It may not reach parity like overnight, but I think there's you know, kind of similar market forces that work in a more favorable direction to, you know, have more competition and at least motivate people to kind of develop their own algorithms that can do the same thing. Like once there's one that kind of breaks through, if that makes sense.
But I mean, how are you going to compete against like unlimited capital that the company will have if it's the first one to market building like an algorithm that works, you know? I mean, I feel very strongly about this because I think we need to start with open source from the beginning and make it as powerful as possible. And like, I don't know, I think like that's just the way to go with all of this, you know? And like, otherwise, what direction are we going into? Like, you know, just one person's going to win this and like, it's just going to reconstruct. I guess we're going to go back into the whole same conversation, but
yeah, you know, I think we can.
The other reason why perhaps not to worry about it, and I'm not happy about this fact, is that even if you have a lucid dreaming device that works today, right, and is affordable enough, let's say, and you sell it now to all the lucid dreaming enthusiasts, it will take a lot of time before everybody else would get on board and try it and and get into it. Like there's
you sell it to everyone. Everyone wants to have an experience like this, you know, if it actually works.
They don't know that. They don't know that. That's the problem. I've talked to so many people that are like, I explained to them what lucid dreaming is, and they're like,
show
why?
them, but if you can
What's the point?
If you can show them, if you can reliably show them, then they obviously they will
Nonetheless,
right away.
Sure, but it will take more time than you imagine.
I think the problem right now.
Let's shelf this discussion for now. I think you know, we've covered this enough. So let's let's put a bow on the device conversation temporarily. I want to like quickly just chat through a little bit about supplements, and then I think we'll just have open discussion after that. But let me just share real quick. I think it's a pretty cool study. I made a slide, so I want to show it. There's this is just kind of a preamble. Just some key takeaway from this is there's different supplements you can use to induce lucidity, kind of working on different types of neurotransmitters. And often there's a strategy on like when you take a supplement during the night, because there's different release kinetics as far as like this one galantamine. It takes about an hour until you reach your maximum concentration. So oftentimes in protocols, they'll tell people to wait, 4 or 5 hours and then take the galantamine, because then they're taking it at this time where it takes a little while for that galantamine concentration to, go up in their body. And then that's the period when there's more longer REM sleep periods later in the night. So there's kind of this strategy around not just dosage, but also timing on some of these things too. So I wanted to point that out on this particular slide here. Oh, there's a couple good books that I want to point out to you on supplements. There's this Advanced Lucid Dreaming, Power of Supplements. I know.
Yeah, remember we talked about this. He disappeared. Did he come back? Or?
Disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking around on like some.
The book is pretty scientifically written, and like he goes through all the like supplements.
Yeah, like that's the most complete kind of focus book on supplements I know. And then this Dreaming Wide Awake one, he gets like a couple sections on it. He gets more into like the more of like the shamanic kind of properties of lucid dreaming and intersecting with psychedelics, and that's a pretty good read too. So maybe I'll do like the 1 minute buzz through on this study here, where this was back in 2018. This was Stephen LaBerge, Kristen Lamarca, and Ben Baird. It was with 121 participants. It's kind of similar to that study we were talking about before, where there's definitely a self-selection kind of situation here. These are people that were on a lucid dreaming retreat with already high recall for dreams. So it's a subset of people that are, lucid dreaming enthusiasts, not necessarily representative of the mass population. It was double-blind, controlled with the placebo. They had a experimental group and a control group. So they waited about 4.5 hours into sleep for the reason that I mentioned in the previous slide. Then each participant was asked to recall a dream they had from earlier in the night, and then they ingested a capsule of galantamine, and they would do either a 0 milligram dose, kind of the sham dose, 4 milligrams or 8 milligrams, and then they stayed out of bed for about 30 minutes. And it combined it with this mild technique, mnemonic-induced lucid dreaming. So that was common across, like whether they had 0 milligrams or 8 milligrams or anything in between. They did this kind of mental technique along with it. But they did see pretty good results. That's kind of in the section down here showing that even with the 0 milligram dose, they saw like 14% of people had lucid dreams, which is those mental techniques. But then the numbers do jump up in a way that's statistically significant for the 4 milligram dose and the 8 milligram dose, and a pretty impressive leap from 0 milligram up to 4 milligram up to 8 milligram, with up to 42% of the time having a lucid dream when they had the 8 milligram dose. So at least to my knowledge, this is the best, kind of most robust study around galantamine, at least, and its ability to induce lucid dreams.
Did they mention any negative effects from galantamine?
Yeah, it's yeah,
I know there's drowsiness immediately, but long term.
Give you a stomach ache.
Yeah,
like long term.
Yeah,
but if you take it like every week, is there any long term like damage?
Well, you can get a tolerance.
Yeah, they definitely recommend like waiting a few days for it to wash out of your system. I think the half-life is pretty long. I can't remember exactly. It's in that Advanced Lucid Dreaming book, but it's the half-life is long enough where I think you want to wait a couple days until doing it again.
Yeah, it also can disrupt sleep, so you don't want to do it every day.
But I'm saying, like, let's say you take it 1 year, like, has there been shown to be any negative consequence? Because this is Alzheimer's supplement, right? I'm not sure it's like healthy to take Alzheimer's supplement if you don't have Alzheimer's.
Definitely wouldn't recommend, taking it every night. And I think it makes sense in any of these kind of things. Space it out a bit when you're talking about neurotransmitters, especially.
Right.
Like, you don't want to perturb the natural kind of cocktail blend that's happening up in your brain. But I think there is a spot for this kind of like spot treatment once in a while around this kind of stuff. But there has been kind of acute side effects of nausea and also insomnia too. It does make you a little bit more alert and kind of stimulated, so it can be difficult to fall back asleep, which kind of cuts both ways, right? Like, you're raising your awareness, makes it difficult to sleep, but when you are asleep, it's easier to get into a lucid dream. Has anybody dabbled with galantamine here?
Yeah, I have. It's like 50-50. 50% of the time I can't go back to sleep, and 50% of the time I can, and I have lucid dreams. So it's pretty effective if you can sleep.
Yeah, don't take it before you go to sleep, which I did, and then like you can fall asleep.
Oh yeah, no.
The first time.
Do you take it in the middle of the night or at the beginning of the night usually?
I take it in the middle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It needs to be like, I guess, like you wrote here, you sleep for a few hours and then you take it. There's also huperzine A, which is like the Chinese equivalent of it. I think you mentioned that as well. And then there's alpha GPC, which you're supposed to take in combination with galantamine. Yeah, that one.
Like a choline supplement that
you wrote that
works in a synergistic way. Where like galantamine and huperzine A are these acetylcholinease inhibitors, meaning that they inhibit the enzyme that breaks down this acetylcholine in your brain. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. It's a molecule that helps elongate REM sleep and kind of facilitates REM sleep. So this inhibits the enzyme that breaks it down. So it effectively helps build up acetylcholine in your brain for a certain period of time. So it's kind of modulating your the molecules there to be more kind of friendly to REM sleep in this case.
Did you? I have a question. Did you notice that the dream when you took, well, like I guess Brian as well, like if you took galantamine, was it a different type of dream? Because I think Robert Wagner, he mentioned like that sort of like whenever he took galantamine, it was kind of a different kind of lucid dream, and that's why he was also kind of against it because he didn't feel like it was like the full experience.
That's interesting.
I've had mixed reviews on it. Like sometimes they're pretty epic, like really long lucid dreams that like are very kind of vivid and clear. Other times it feels like if I'm having a lucid dream on galantamine, it's like the dream characters are kind of like dumbed down, or like I talk to them and I just get like kind of nonsense responses, which can happen in a non-galantamine lucid dream too.
Okay.
But I feel like that happens more when I'm taking galantamine. It's more of like a kind of a muted, kind of subdued experience sometimes, but not always.
Has LaBerge ever written or talked about how he figured out how he stumbled upon galantamine in particular, or just tried a bunch of things and kind of connected dots with the acetylcholine and all of that? I wonder.
I guess because his thing is called mild, right, which is memory induced, and like I guess this is like something to increase memory, so maybe that why he found it, right?
I think I a little bit remember from the paper, unless Brian, you'd actually remember, but I think what it was okay. So I think I have some notes from when I was reading it. Galantamine in particular has been associated with shortened REM latency and increased phasic activity. Okay, so they had they had some data already but this might have been data that they did before this study, but like in another study, that galantamine like made you go into REM faster, and then it also increased twitches, which is associated with that's what in their previous research they associated increased twitching, which they call phasic activity, with lucid dreaming, and galantamine was associated with increased phasic activity. I think that's what they said why they tried it, but they had other hypothesis around why they thought it worked also, but I think that was the reason for trying it.
Yeah, and I'm not sounds like that could be it. I think there's also I was just going back through my one of my other Google Docs, and I found this other thing that I pasted into the chat here, where they've been, apparently the Birch has been kind of dabbling in this kind of class of molecules for a while, as far as acetylcholinease inhibitors. Like they did a study back in 2001, like more of just kind of a small pilot study that was using this Dunpazil, Aricept is the kind of brand name there. So yeah, I guess it doesn't answer the question of why they chose that one in particular, but it does seem like he's been kind of dabbling with a few different varieties of this kind of molecule class for a while. I mean, I would speculate that, you know, there's kind of the four main neurotransmitters like related to you know, sleep and dreaming, like with acetylcholine being one of them, and that one being most tied to REM sleep. So I could see a logical approach being like, okay, this thing is important to REM sleep. How do I modulate this? Whether it's like adding a choline supplement as like a precursor kind of molecule, or these kind of, you know, enzyme inhibitors. So that I mean, that's just me speculating without knowing for sure.
Yeah, they had like 4 things they thought, like their hypothesis for why galantamine worked. I don't know if they thought about all of them before they did the study or they came to the conclusion after, but it was like, one was the increased phasic activity and reduced REM latency, and then the other was stuff with like the acetylcholine modulation, and then there was also aminergic modulation, which is dopamine, like stuff related to dopamine that can help as well. And then the last thing was just like in general, the galantamine was associated with increased recall, or dream recall, I guess, and a dream vividness and bizarreness and complexity of dreams. And so maybe they just knew all these things and they were like, let's see.
What about mugwort? Has anyone had experience with that? Good experiences? Or I guess
yeah,
else?
that was our last experiment for the group, was mugwort.
Oh, maybe on the last meeting.
I've been a bit delinquent on using it. I have I don't know if I have my supplement next to me, but people have claimed that even keeping the leaves under your pillow can help induce lucid dreams, as far as like the, you know, like fragrance of it to be able to raise your awareness. I definitely didn't see that. Like I had a bag under my pillow for about a month or so. Didn't see any, at least, changes from my baseline. And I have taken it in a capsule form before, but I haven't really, I haven't noticed that many effects, but then at the same time, I haven't gone through the rigor of like doing an actual like controlled experiment in a serious way yet.
Sometimes I'm also wondering, like, what are things you should not do, for example, right? So for example, you know, things like cannabis or alcohol, probably not good to, like, you know, like, actually I think cannabis has been shown to like inhibit like ability to lucid dream. Is there anything else that you think of that is like, okay, you should not, because sometimes it's like, there's so much of like, okay, you should do this, you should dream journal, dream recall, and all these other things. But it's like, what should you not do? Like, you know, it's like, sometimes also interesting to think about, especially like the psychological component, because like, you know, for people sort of like who haven't experienced it much, you know, they're always asking, like, oh, is this real? Okay, I know it's like, you know, people tell me it's real, but I haven't experienced it. like what are sort of these psychological things you can sort of, you know, get out of the way in terms of like, you know, then inducing it more, because maybe that's also like, like kind of like blocking yourself, you know.
Yeah, I think.
But maybe that's for another topic.
Okay, yeah, I think there's like it's a good point as far as like before doing any of this, building a stable foundation, and I think some of the components around that is keeping a consistent sleep schedule to keep your, you know, kind of sleep stages happening in a repeatable manner. Getting in, like being able to sleep in late enough, because your REM sleep cycles tend to happen more later in the night, and they get longer and longer with each kind of phase. So if you're getting your sleep disrupted, you know, like, and not being able to sleep in, like you're just not getting as much opportunity to lucid dream. And then as you mentioned, cannabis, alcohol, you know, has been shown to suppress REM sleep. Flip side of that is if you, you know, if you're kind of a heavy drinker or smoker, then if you stop, you get this REM rebound effect where you get like REM coming back with a vengeance. So I think there's a way to, you know, use that to your advantage too. And like, you know, maybe that could even happen if you have some drinks and suppress REM sleep in the first half of the night. Like maybe you get longer periods later in the night. I wouldn't necessarily advise that, but I think there could be something there.
Okay.
It just occurred to me that as far as I know, and I'm surprised when no one is, again, as far as I can tell, is doing this, is doing more research like the very original Voss study that was just trying to look at what happens in the brain while people are lucid dreaming. And now, you know, due to some techniques like with Karen's research and just having access through the internet to more people who can lucid dream reliably or more reliably, because they have only a few subjects in the original study, and it took them 6 months before they got 3 recorded lucid dreams, to study with probably better equipment than in 2009, to actually, again, try to really see what is happening in the brain when people lucid dream, and maybe even take blood draws or anything else to see. I mean, I know it's hard to kind of know what neurotransmitters are running in the brain without, I don't know, fMRI or something. I'm not exactly sure they figured that out, but all the data that we can collect and see if there's any pattern whatsoever in a lucidity state as far as measurements can go.
You know, Carissa, she came to the group last time. Her microphone didn't work though, so she didn't introduce herself. But I think that's what she's trying to do. She's like looking for biomarkers. She got like open BCI. That's what she's trying to do. But that's so interesting. Like,
does she have any research that you can read, or?
I think like she like just got this lab set up, so I don't know if she's like in the last few months. So I don't know like if she put anything out. But yeah, that's a good point. Like there's a lot more resources today, just like with the ability to like connect with people. And even I would think like, you know, we can connect with people on the other side of the world like a lot easier. And like you could have people who are awake, you know, during normal hours, like maybe kind of researching people who are asleep and hooked up to something that's sending information across the world, which they couldn't do as easily back in the day when you just didn't have the internet and like you couldn't reach out to people and send data like it live.
That's brilliant. That's really clever. I like it.
Yeah, it's kind of like bottoms up type of research, or like if we have all these devices distributed that are able to kind of collect this data and high enough fidelity to help us characterize these states. Yeah, like there's just a lot of room to discover new things, right? Like you don't have to go into a sleep lab or get hooked up to 5,000 electrodes. Like when it gets more user friendly, I think like the discoveries get easier too, obviously.
Yeah, like, well, it's like with OpenBCI, you could probably get a lot of information. Like you can really replicate a sleep lab. And even with this other thing, like you posted, like for a lot less money than Karen was telling me like the devices that she uses at Northwestern are from like 90s, and they're like $10,000, but you can get the same thing pretty much for like $800 today or $1,000.
If you let people sleep at home, if people sleep at home, they'll actually sleep better. And if you can do it remotely, then you get better data, but possibly, at least potentially.
Yeah, it's something that like we probably could do for not too much. Like it probably could be figured out, and I feel like this is like doing something like that would be a really good stepping stone to to getting something that actually works to induce lucidity, because you're getting all this data, number one, and you could also like kind of do what Karen was doing. You can like test manually inducing lucid dreams, and like it's something that could be done with not too much money, probably.
Yeah, I think we're we're obviously living in the stage where it's like more possible than ever. Like that's my my cliche I'll toss out here, but it's like the obvious thing that's true as far as like like tools keep getting better, so like we're gonna be able to more easily discover new things. I know we're a bit beyond the 2-hour mark here, and I know I'm starting to wind down with my 34 readiness scored fever. But any other just final things people want to mention or chat about before we close the call?
I guess I'd just be curious to hear from others what you think is like the most reliable thing you can do to induce lucidity, like yourself. I mean, from all the things you do, like what's actually like you think like has like the most impact for yourself. I mean, because like there's a range of things, right? I mean, from devices to supplements to like reality checks and dream journals, and I mean there's so many other things, like just to train attentiveness. Like what do you think is actually helping you to reach that sort of level where you have this recognition?
It's maybe a sounds too simple or a common cliche to hear when people start lucid dreaming or learning how, but I know a fair amount of people who all they've done is reliably write a dream journal with extensive details, and just started, getting more dream recall until it crossed over into lucidity, and they started, doing lucid dreaming without techniques. I don't think everyone that will be sufficient for, but I do think it's kind of like a necessary but not sufficient. But for a fair amount of people, if they write down their dreams every day, they will start lucid dreaming naturally. And that's at least a theory of mine. I just don't know what the percentage might be, but I've talked to enough people to start believing that this could be the case.
Yeah, like that definitely resonates with my experience too. Like before you even said anything, Jay, I had dream journal in mind as like that necessary foundational thing. I know like if I get out of the habit of not keeping a dream journal, my lucid dreaming practice just kind of goes down at that point.
Same.
And I've had like like these lucid dreams where I almost forget that I had them because I didn't have good dream recall at the time. So it could even be that you're having lucid dreams, but you're just not remembering that you're having them if your dream recall is bad. So I think
that is possible, right? You could have a lucid dream and then just like not forget about it when you wake up.
Yeah, for sure. There was one where it's like I was like 95% chance of forgetting it, but somehow I like caught onto a thread of a dream and like kind of trace it back, and I was like, oh yeah, I did have a lucid dream. But it was like one of those kind of like slippery ones that could have easily been lost into the ether. So I think that's a big one. And also, at least for me personally, like sleep interruption tends to work for me as far as like if I get up and use the bathroom and get a glass of water at like 5 a.m. and go back with the intention of lucid dreaming, that's also helpful for me.
How do you keep the dream journal? I mean, especially, for new people, like they feel like they can't recall anything. And then it's like, okay, you start with a thread, and then you sort of like try to like get back into the dream. Like, what is your technique, I guess, for keeping a dream journal? I guess Jay and Brian, yeah. Or Josh, if you want to say.
Yeah, I have like, when you like want to get something in the kitchen, so you leave and you go to the kitchen, and when you're in the kitchen, you don't remember what you came there for.
Yeah.
You have to go back to the room you were in, and then you remember. So like that, I have a similar thing with dreams. If I wake up and like I move, a lot of times I can't remember my dreams until I lay back in the position I was sleeping in and close my eyes and then think about it. It's like the same mechanism. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this conditional memory, I think is a real thing with this too. I've also noticed that where it's like position dependent, or like it's almost like you're trying not to scare away a wild animal. It's like, don't move too fast because otherwise you're going to forget your dreams. So it's like, at least I've seen that too, where it's like, try to lay still and like remember, you know, what you're just dreaming about before doing too much.
Yeah, keep your eyes closed, or like if you had to like turn an alarm off or something, just go back into the position you were in and close your eyes and think. That's like, sometimes I'll think I don't remember anything, and then if I do that, I'll remember something.
And then you start writing down after that, right? Yeah.
And I dropped a link in the chat too, just outlining.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Actually, I think I read that. That was a great article. You've written some good pieces on like lucid dreaming, like on your Medium.
Yeah, thanks. This one is meant to find the balance of not disrupting your sleep too much, but still capturing the necessary details. I tend to use a combination of paper and notebook, but then also sometimes I'll use this voice recording app on my Apple Watch to just kind of like get the main details, and then I can transcribe that more in a Google Doc the next day if I'm being good about my habits. So anyways, like I think there's ways to use some of these digital tools to make it easier too, because it's kind of a pain in the ass to like turn on a light at night and have to sit up and write in a dream journal. It's like
with pen and paper, here's my fire, my candle.
yeah. So I think there's some ways to use technology to make dream journaling a bit easier too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate people joining tonight and staying for a couple hours here. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I think I'm gonna wrap it at this point, but look forward to future meetings, and definitely if people have ideas for future events, whether it's like different topics or different guest speakers or how to structure things, like definitely let me know and ways that we could kind of structure things for future events. I'm still hoping to have like one a month kind of thing, like even if we don't have a guest speaker. I think I was kind of struggle busing on getting some guest speakers lined up, and then just kind of like I was traveling and it just like things can fall behind. But yeah, I think like trying to keep to once a month would be nice, and just keep it consistent.
I think like if we don't have a guest speaker, it's also a option to like have something like you shared that the Lamarca study, and like have something like we all read through that, or we don't have to, but like just something like that can be maybe a thing to talk about. And I also like that because I like reading those studies, but they're really hard. And like it's nice to have people to be like clarify things with, or just like some motivation to get through them.
I think it's a good idea.
I like it. I think there's a bunch of studies that would be really interesting to discuss, and you can just pick one or two max and just try to dive into them a little bit, understand it better. Collective brain.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, thank you so much for like organizing this. I think just like the fact that you're sort of like having this is already like it's good, and if you could do that regularly. I think that there's so many lucid dreaming communities, and like it's just like what I'm trying to figure out is okay, how can we connect all of them so we can have more interaction between people? There's all these different people working on this, so like just try to keep this going, and then we can see how, I guess we're all working on our own, but how we can also then connect our own things together more, like different communities and things like that. I think sort of like the idea is like how can we actually genuinely collaborate more, and so I think just having the space, having even different spaces is like, and then connecting all of this, like sort of like, that's like already with the articles you have, and just like, there doesn't need to be any specific speaker, I think. Just like, like don't feel like the pressure, like because I know even just putting it on is work. You know, you have to like do the invite, all these other things. So like, doesn't need to be this event. The event is just like people interested in like collaborating and working together. Like, so yeah, thanks for doing that. You know.
Yeah. No,
like,
I appreciate that.
And then it's not about the number of people. Like, it doesn't need to be like, okay, one speaker and 100 people listening. It's just like, you know, just like today. I mean, you know, a handful of people can just talk like in real life.
And I think like, well, you know, we're still pretty early days for this particular community, and it's gonna grow, you know, probably gradually, and then hopefully it takes off at some point. But I think the things I can control is like keeping consistent on like getting these events together. It might feel like shouting into the void at times, but I think I'm committed to just like keeping this going, and as long as people are interested to join, like I can't think of many topics that are more interesting to me. So I am very happy to spend a couple hours per month talking about this, and you know, working on the website and, you know, reading articles. And so anyways, like I'll aim to keep this consistent, and yeah, let's keep it going, and we'll grow it over time.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come eventually. But they will.
Yep.
Thanks for setting this up. Yeah, this is great.
All right, great. Thanks everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Brian. Bye, everybody.